Do it.
Cotman, Crawford, and the Jersey Guy Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Kenny Cotman.
Lewis Crawford.
And I'm Tom Ramage, the Jersey Guy.
Hello. How's everybody doing this week?
Good. You?
Good, man.
Yeah, chilling.
Yeah.
Same old shit.
It's
different
Friday.
day. You know me. Thank God it's Friday, bro. God.
It's Friday, man.
Yeah.
Come sooner enough. Even though we just came off a 4-day or a 3-day weekend.
Well, you did.
What you did? Yeah, no, we had to work.
Oh, you had to.
Yeah, no.
But like, it's still 3 days. 4 days. It's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was cool because my supervisor was on vacation, so I was like, yes,
Nice.
chilling.
Nice.
Then she came back yesterday, so I'm like,
How are you, Steve?
I'm wonderful. Glad to be here. Thanks for
So
having me.
we have Steve here.
Yes, he's here. He is a
Who's
therapist, a friend of mine.
Therapist. Yeah.
yeah.
And I figured we invite him over and just have a podcast to talk about therapy and then whatever questions we got and everything. So,
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you start.
I'll
first.
start it off. So, my question was, as far as, did you start off right away in doing therapy, or was it something that you were working at a place and you found it kind of brought you that way to do that?
Well, when I was graduating high school, I wasn't like really a college guy. So I started. My first job was working in group homes with underprivileged kids and from broken homes and stuff like that. Excuse me, because I had a friend who grew up in the system.
Right.
And from there, I started. When I went to college, I started taking psychology courses and things like that. Still never knowing what I was going to do or what direction I wanted to go into. But then I started having some of my own problems, and I started seeing one of my teachers who was a therapist, a psychologist. And I said, hey, this is kind of cool. I like this. I like helping people. And so then I finished up college, graduate school, and got my master's degree. And worked for agencies for a bunch of years because that's all I was going to be allowed to do based on just like what was out there for me. And it wasn't until 2006 where they came up with the license that I have it's called a licensed mental health counselor, which they have it in all the states now. And it kind of rewarded people who had master's degrees in psychology that weren't social workers or didn't go on for PhDs. And so I got my license, and from there I started a practice. But for 30 years I worked in a county mental health and social service system. So
Nice.
I've been private practice for 16 years now. So,
Nice. That's very good.
Full time for 2.5 years.
So it sounds like you kind of you kind of already knew the way it sounds that you were already going in that direction based on what how it started off for you. That's good.
Yeah. I always knew I wasn't a suit and tie guy. I didn't want to work for IBM or
Right.
stuff like that back in the day.
I'm with you.
So,
Yeah, no shit.
it wasn't my style.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just liked helping people. It was kind of my thing. So
It's good.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because I used to work with foster care kids and stuff like that too. A long time ago, I worked at DFY, and I worked in group homes and stuff like that. So I understand it's crazy because, and throw this in real quick, it's different when you're working with kids because it's like you just want to, like you just feel it from the heart to go and help them out and talk to them. That I mean, I do miss that part of working what I do, but yeah, it's cool. So now, what is the difference between a therapist and a psychiatrist?
Well, a psychiatrist is a medical doctor. So they've gone to medical school and they've specialized in psychiatry, whereas therapists, different levels. Like my level is probably the lowest level of a licensed therapist that you can get. There's professional counselors or licensed mental health counselors, which is what I am. There's social workers, there's psychologists, PsyDs. They're psychologists and the PsyDs are on a doctorate level. And
Okay.
I'm on a master's level.
Okay.
But we all kind of do the same thing. We talk to people, we help with problems, help find solutions.
Right.
So doctors, the psychiatrists prescribe medication.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, one.
Yeah. So I had an interesting question.
Yeah.
So, in the last few years, ever since like 2020 pandemic, just stuff has just gotten so out of control, wild. Have you been seeing as a therapist, have you been seeing like an influx in people having some mental health issues from all the craziness of the world right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought my take on the whole stuff with COVID. Obviously, we use the C word. Right? Yeah. It all started with COVID, and I always just felt that like once that stuff started happening, that it really just kind of brought out people's awareness of their own mortality and their own frailty. Because like stuff that we didn't always worry about, like where are we going to get food from? Like, am I going to have my job? You know, who's going to die tomorrow and the next day, kind of brought that up. And there was a lot of fears that people started experiencing from that. And I think it affected, excuse me, when people started working from home. I think, I mean, I don't know if you guys work remote. I mean, I think remote was awful for the kids. It took them out of, the socialization. From elementary school through high school. Like they're supposed to go every day and see their friends and play and just kind of bond and have that interaction. And that was kind of taken away from them. And they didn't have there was no resources for them to deal with whatever was going on with them. And we didn't understand, like parents didn't understand what was going on. I know I didn't, even, being a therapist, excuse me, I remember my daughter was like struggling in school and she's really smart. Yeah. My younger one. And I was like, what's your problem? Why aren't you doing your work? All you got to do is wake up like at 8:00, roll out of bed, start doing your work. You don't even have to change. You can wear your pajamas. She goes, Dad, you don't get it, man. Like the thing is, like, this is my room. It's not my classroom. I hate being in my room now. Like we painted her. We had to paint her room. She asked us to paint it. Yeah. We painted it like dark gray because that was like the mood that she was in. Oh, and like I used to want to come home and get on the computer and go do gaming with my friends and stuff like that. She goes, I hate the computer now because I got to sit all day. Not only do I got to sit all day and do class, then I got to sit for 2 hours and do homework. So by the time I'm done, I don't want to go gaming and do anything like that. Right. And we just didn't understand. We thought it was easy for them. Mm-hmm. So
the whole routine was just
all routine and stuff. So like I know I had to work remotely from before I retired, and I don't work there anymore, so I could say it. I mean, I just manipulated my time as best as I could, and so I knew how to do it. But 12-year-old kids don't know how to do that.
Right.
I didn't even think about that.
Right. And for us, you think, well, this is great.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. At first when you're a kid, you think, because, you get the snow days and stuff like that, and you're always, I'm going to be home for like 3 days, whatever. But when it just on and on like that, it just for a child, I would guess that would be monotonous, especially if you can't go anywhere and do anything.
You couldn't go out with your friends. Right. You couldn't do anything. And then they took snow days away from them. They'd have a snow day, and it's like, oh, today we're going to be remote. Yeah. We told Arcus, screw that. You're staying home. No school today.
Right.
Go play in the snow.
Luckily, in my town, they do snow days. They don't do remote.
Yeah. You're Jersey, right? You're in Jersey.
Yeah. Right.
So. That's wild. I mean, like I said, because my daughter, the youngest, she was, had to do remote and whatnot. And I'm saying the same thing you said. Like, what? You roll out of bed and right here, you don't have to do your hair or nothing.
Yeah,
like just...
it makes sense. Like the social part is completely
you need that, right? I mean, that's important to have that socialization and everything.
They're limited anyway with technology because all they do is text and group chats and everything. It's like we're all over 30, right?
Yeah. No.
I always tell them because we used to go out and play. Like, knock on the door. Hey,
X, baby.
Who can play? Can you come out? Can you come out and play? Can Kenny come out and play today? Yeah. And you do. And nowadays, they, it's like, what do you walk into their room and like, what are you doing? So I'm hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, like what? There's nobody here.
So they lost that, and then they lost the one place that they had people their age
physically be,
and that was taken away from them. So,
right.
And it still affects them now because you have 16, 17, 18-year-olds who don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to walk in a room and just jump right in and get involved with stuff. So it was a big impact. Yeah. So
wow. So there's still some of your clients are still dealing with that.
I think most kids are. I think you walk into any high school, you walk into junior high school. You walk into people between the ages of 10 and 25, and there's still that impact of that.
They're still recovering from it. Yeah. Oh wow, that's crazy.
You get used to not talking to anybody.
Yeah, but I mean, so was that a COVID thing, or would it be more that it's just their phones? Yeah, just technology thing.
I think COVID just
made it worse.
Made it like 100 times worse. So they didn't know how to socialize that much anyway.
Right, and it's just added to it.
It's just the one place that they did socialize.
It was gone.
Yeah.
It was gone. And then even when they went back to school, it was like masks, so you couldn't see anybody, and there was like there was
Some had partitions
or limit
Right.
the number of kids in the class, or there was no
Plexiglass
touching.
Right, stand on this spot.
Like, I mean, I remember high school, junior.
We'll
you
put an
go in
empty
there,
desk
you're
in
pushing
between.
into your friends, you're screwing around with everybody.
Right.
So, and that was all gone. That was all taken away from them.
Right, because I would just think about it. When we went to school, I know we were playing punch ball in the schoolyard before we went into class, you know, depending what it was, junior high school or whatever, or you're hanging out on campus before you went to class, you know.
Right.
I think
And that was all like taken away from them.
I think my
you know?
son lucked out though because he
was still young enough.
started kindergarten last year.
Oh.
Last,
So, yeah, so
last,
it
in
probably doesn't-
2022,
probably
going
doesn't
to
bother him.
2023.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
So he just like the year before he was in preschool and they just started going back to the
Oh, nice.
and
Yeah, that worked out good for
And
him.
then 2022 he started kindergarten.
And now everything's normal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they play
Knock on
again.
wood,
Yeah, they play. Yeah, it's like, I remember the first time we got to fly when we didn't have to wear masks and all that stuff. I was like, well, who are these people?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I can tell.
nice.
I can tell what everybody looks like. Right? No, it's crazy. It's no, yeah. I mean, that was. I think for me, we worked through it,
Right.
so it wasn't like we had to stay home.
No.
We were on the road all the time. Him and I just
Yeah.
working. But we had letters that they gave us.
Yeah.
Hey, these guys are allowed to be out because they're taking care of a certain,
Right.
need for the
Yeah.
supermarket industry. So we won't say who, but
Yeah.
so I don't think it really affected us that much, except that we had to wear the masks.
Yeah.
That was it, right? But I didn't mind that so much, to be
But it
honest with you.
affected you when you went in to do your job because there was nobody there.
Actually, no.
The
Days
supermarkets were.
were still kind of busy,
Okay.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
It was.
They were looking for toilet paper.
You know what it was? Yeah.
and
That was
trust me,
something.
it was so funny walking in and not seeing all that on the shelves either. It was nuts.
We would there would be lines people try to get in, like because they would open the stores later, like they opened it earlier for people who were older, like senior
Or handicapped,
First
right?
responders.
and then like 7:00. So and then when it came in, like everybody would and not only that, I think people like going to supermarkets because it was their
It was
one
their-
thing. They get to go out,
Especially the older people, because they always went early in the morning. Those
Yeah.
guys,
But people in general, people were working. It was the only time they
Right.
had to leave the house.
Right.
So
See, I found shopping really traumatic, and
Really?
I love to. I love doing. I do the grocery shopping at home, and I go up and down every aisle. Oh, this is on sale. I got my. But during COVID, it was like I thought I was walking in a war zone. You're going up and down the aisles because you had to go.
Yeah,
Had to
one
follow
way.
the arrows.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
And there was like it was scary. Here we are in like I live in I live in Rockland County.
yeah.
And like going in these supermarkets and there's no food.
Right.
It's like post-apocalyptic.
Right.
There's,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
food or anything like that,
Yeah.
and like what the hell is going on here? And driving up because I was why was I allowed to go out? What did they call us?
Essential.
Essential,
Essential, right.
essential. And I always saw people in person. I didn't do the remote therapy.
Oh.
I didn't like it. We used where my office was. There was a meeting room because it was an office building,
Right.
and nobody else was there. So I would sit, in the meeting room 15, 20 feet from somebody and spray after everybody and do all that. But driving home back and forth was like scary.
Yeah, it was. It was.
You can drive
dead
home
out
like
there.
100 miles an hour.
because there's nobody on the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
Nobody on the road.
Yeah.
And the flashing road sign said, "Save lives, stay home."
Yeah.
That was scary shit to me.
Yeah.
That always freaked me out. So.
I have a good question, and in reference to patients, have you ever had anybody where you weren't able to help, or you had to say, "Hey, listen, I think this is going to be better for you going to this individual, or you might need medication," kind of thing? Like, in other words, do you ever run into that situation where you find somebody like, okay, this person's not, it's not working for them for whatever reason?
Yeah, I'm real comfortable with my skills, and I know if I can't handle something, and I have no problems telling somebody, I don't think I'm the right person for you.
Right.
And even like on the initial phone call, if it sounds like it's something that I may not be able to deal with, but the person is really desperate and they can't find anybody, and I just happen to have a spot, I'll let them know right up front. I'll see them for a couple times, but if I don't think it's something that I'm going to be able to help with, I'm not going to continue to see you. And if somebody's in need of medications, I mean, again, I'm not a
Gotta refer 'em to,
psychiatrist.
Right.
I'll tell them I think it's best that they should at least have a psychiatrist, or in order to continue to see me, they have to see a psychiatrist. So.
Right. Oh, so they could do both.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can see just like if you like how insurance works and stuff like that. You can see a psychiatrist and a therapist. You can't see like more than one therapist. So you can't do like a repeat of services. That's all. So
Gotcha.
insurance won't pay for somebody to see me and somebody to see another therapist who provides the same service.
Right. So, but if it's a psychiatrist because it's a step higher or low, whatever it is.
Just the whole billing system
Gotcha.
that they do.
Right.
So,
That makes sense.
yeah, I mean, if the person's paying cash, they can see
Do whatever
100
they
people
want, yeah.
and just not tell anybody. So
Yeah,
I've
feel
had
like
that.
independently
I've had that
wealthy,
happen.
yeah.
So
Right.
Now, do you get to speak to a therapist? I'm sorry. Do you, as a therapist, get to speak to a psychiatrist when you're dealing with any one client to make sure that
Oh,
they're
you're
mental
thinking
health-
of like The Sopranos when the therapist talks to.
Oh yeah, I wasn't thinking that, but okay.
She sees. Yeah.
are you talking about me personally
Yeah,
for
like you
myself?
personally, yeah, and or therapists as a, in general. Because, like I said, I know, like when I was working in foster care and stuff, we used to have meetings to make sure that the kids were okay and stuff like that. So it'd be the therapist, the caseworker, and things like that. So, you having adult clients. Do you get to speak to the psychiatrist to say, listen, Lou isn't, he needs help with this, or, I'm having this kind of issue. Is he giving you the same thing to help?
Ideally, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually, you have the person sign a release and you're supposed to coordinate services. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, or sometimes it's just verifying that, hey, is this person still going to see you? Or are they on their medication and stuff like that?
Right.
But there's, I mean, you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to coordinate services, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, because I always thought about that, because he could be saying one thing or she can be saying one thing to you and then something different over here, and, maybe getting the wrong meds or just not getting the assistance as a whole that they might need,
Yeah, I mean, I also...
Go ahead.
I also try and like to let everybody they see be like personally accountable for their own treatment.
Okay.
So if somebody is talking about how something's not working, I would suggest that they talk to their psychiatrist about it, maybe adjusting medications. One of the things, I worked 30 plus years in the county system. So I made a decision privately is I don't see people who are coming through the court systems. Everybody who walks anybody who walks on my door is coming because they want to come and talk to somebody. And even like the teenagers that I get who sometimes they're coming because their parents want them to come, I will sit with them and the parent and let them know right off the bat that I am your child's therapist. What we talk about is between us. Unless they tell me that they're going to hurt themselves or they're suicidal, I'm not going to share anything with you unless they want me to do that. And if they don't want to come to see me, I will not see them. You can go and take them to somebody else. I just don't ever want to be part of like the negative experience for somebody. I don't want a kid who doesn't want to be in therapy now, but probably is going to need it down the road to be like, no, I'm not going to therapy because I had to see that guy last time.
Right.
And I hated it. So I don't like to do that. So because at some point everybody should talk to somebody.
Right.
So it's just I just want to be part of the good experience.
Yeah, that works. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It does. I was just...
And then I don't get annoying phone calls from parents. So that works out that way.
Yeah, that's the plus right there.
Do you think that, but the kind of thing you're seeing more often now, because of what we were just talking about with COVID and everything, is it more of a depression, really, a lot more than we used to be?
A lot of depression and anxiety.
Anxiety.
Yeah. Which kind of go hand in hand
Right.
with just everything that's going on.
Right.
So.
Right. And if you're coordinating, and I would assume that when if someone else is going to a psychiatrist, you guys are, sharing notes with one another and saying, okay, this is what I found when I saw I'm sitting with so-and-so or that or whatever. And they're like, yeah, oh, wow, you know what? I didn't see that. I didn't pick up on that kind of thing. So it kind of must help both. You're helping each other out at the same time, working for that one patient. That must be really cool. It's kind of beneficial when you think about it for the patient, right? I mean, that's a double whammy right there.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Best worlds, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because typically I'd be seeing the patient, once a week or 3 times a month for an hour, whereas the psychiatrist maybe is seeing them once a month, probably once every 3 months for about 20 minutes. So yeah. Yeah,
that's wild. I didn't even know it was that little. I thought the psychiatrist saw them more often than not,
Usually the assessments are thorough.
Right.
And once they're stabilized on medication, it's usually just a med visit. So.
Now, and I have this another question is regarding medication. What about people who just get prescribed medication, right? And they have mental health issues. and they need to work them out. But the only thing they're doing or think that that's okay for them is to have the medication. And the way I think about it is, because I've been to therapy before, and I think of it like this. I'm like, yeah, no, not that I've been on any meds, but I would think like, I think you need both, really. So you can go down and sit down and kind of go through whatever's going through while the meds are kind of helping you do that at the same time. Because I think if you're not doing one and just doing the other, I think it's like an unbalance still. You're not really getting anything out of it.
You're usually just masking the problem.
Right.
So, I mean, if it's something that's serious, and, you know, people always ask me, like, what's your specialty? And I always kind of joke, is like, I treat the walking well.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's my niche, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Is because it's just me. I'm not in a clinic anymore. I don't have a psychiatrist that I work with.
Right,
So
right,
I try and limit myself to, you know, the everyday Joe or Jane who just needs somebody to talk to, and they don't want to exhaust their relationships with their friends, and they don't want to keep burdening their wife or their husband
Right.
or stuff like that. And because at some point, you just like, no matter how much your friends love you, they don't want to hear it.
Right. Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
want to hear it anymore.
Right. So-
Right.
So it's like, oh man, we're going to talk about this again.
It's like every time
can't we just play golf?
on
Can't we just play
you.
golf?
Yeah.
Shit, you know?
Right.
So
We came to relax. I don't
Yeah.
hear your bullshit.
Exactly.
people just everybody just needs to be heard. So I got a couple of years. And,
Right. Especially if those who can't do it at home, or if there's something's going on and they're not comfortable enough to do it with that person they're with or whoever
They
they're
need someone who's not part of it.
Yeah. Right. On the outside, that
It's
third
always,
party.
it always seems, at least that's what for me, when I've gone there, I like the fact that I have no connection with this person.
Exactly.
They don't know me. I don't know them. It's
Right.
you're starting a new relationship kind of thing is how I feel. And then I think that's good. And when you get a good one, it's that it works for you.
Right.
Kind of like when we were talking about someone that you and I know, a mutual friend, and they were saying they didn't like to go to therapy.
Right.
Because they weren't comfortable and they didn't like the people they would see. And I said, well, my mental thought was, well, look at it this way. You know how when you have to take meds, sometimes the meds don't work right away.
Right.
You got to figure out which one is the one you, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the therapist, so you know. But I would think the same analogy would be for therapists as well. Hey,
Right.
listen, I'm not crazy about this guy or this woman. I want to try somebody else, or maybe they were recommended. So I kind of like, is that the kind of same idea?
Yeah. You know, I always thought at this level, everybody's, you know, again, I'm New York, so everybody's licensed in the state of New York to provide therapy.
Right.
We're allowed to do it. Everything else is just a matter of a connection that you make with somebody. You know, you walk in the room and do I feel like I can talk to this person? And it goes both ways too, because I have to feel like I can listen to you.
Right.
So, because I'm sitting there, you know, it's not going to work. So it's making a connection and developing that relationship with somebody. So, and if it's not working, then yeah, you know, that's when it comes down to where hopefully if the therapist recognizes that, they'll say that to their patient, say, hey, listen, like this, I don't think this is working out for you. Like I'm not the best fit for you. And I always tell people, I want what's best for you. If you don't get along with me, then you
Right.
know, or you don't like my style or something like that, then you should probably get somebody who you're more comfortable
Right.
Right. Definitely.
Totally
Yeah.
makes
Definitely.
sense, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Now, I know you don't deal. So the disclaimer is that you don't handle with the meds and whatnot. Have you had to deal with somebody that's taking their meds irregularly? And then, try to talk them down because they either didn't take them or talking them into taking them. Because I've known people that don't take them thinking that they're okay this week and I don't need to take them today. And then they run into the therapist and like, oh my God, like this is going on. Do you have to?
And then they find out, so you weren't taking your meds.
Right. And then, backhand them or something.
Right. It's as not being a medical doctor, you got to be real careful. I can never tell somebody start taking your meds again.
Oh, even if they're prescribed.
I can't tell you to do that.
Because you didn't prescribe them and you can't.
I prescribe them, and I'm not allowed to prescribe
Right.
them, so I can't tell you, hey, Ken, you should take these meds.
Right.
I tell you to contact your psychiatrist, and you need to let him know that you haven't taken your meds consistently over the last week, 2 weeks, whatever the time frame is, and do what they say.
Whoa, that's wild.
That's a good way. That's a good way of saying it.
cover your ass.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe they'll say, maybe I should take my meds again. Maybe that'll.
And if they do, if they want to take it on their own,
Yeah,
because some of the medication, a lot of the antidepressants that people take, if you stop taking them, if you stop taking them abruptly,
It could be even worse,
it's
right?
even worse. You go into like deep depression and almost as soon as you start taking them again, they can. You get back to normal again, but I can't give you that suggestion to do that.
Wow, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a fine line, but
Right, definitely.
but
The legal thing,
Right.
Yeah, like I said, I get that. I just figured because they're already on meds, already been prescribed, that if they're telling you, I didn't take them, if you can.
But once they stop taking them,
Right.
they're not taking them as prescribed anymore, so everything changes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether
That's
they
wild.
could have worked up to a certain dose or something like that.
Right.
And that happens too, because nowadays with insurance and just the cost of things, sometimes people can't afford their medications, or I have some people that just they can't afford the medications, they can't afford to get to the doctor,
Right,
for
yeah.
copays sometimes. So and doctors, and finding a psychiatrist is really, really hard, especially if you're on like marketplace insurance.
Whoa.
So and I have people like that, and we all do, all therapists do, and try and find a psychiatrist. I'll give you a test. Go tomorrow. Try and get an appointment with a psychiatrist.
Okay.
See how long
I will.
it'll be for you. The
3, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Yeah.
the earliest would probably be about a month or so. Yeah.
Wow.
And you'd be
that
lucky,
booked up.
lucky with that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, is it because there's just not enough therapists, or they're just overwhelmed?
They're overwhelmed. There's not enough anymore. And
Right.
with COVID and when everything,
It kind of jacked everything up a little bit.
man,
Yeah.
it's, therapists stop taking insurance because they can double and triple charge what they used to, what insurance pays. It's just crazy.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
And they work at home. They don't have to go into offices anymore. It's a whole
Right. So they can do the tele.
Yeah.
What is it called? I'm sorry. What's
Telehealth.
Zoom.
Thank you.
Telehealth. Yeah.
Teleconference.
Thank you.
Teleconference.
The telehealth.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's why I guess there's bad in everything. You know what I mean? So that for therapists to turn around and double up on, somebody needs help, that kind of just sucks.
Yeah.
And I get making money. Like I can't do this if I don't get paid. But I still, I'm somebody. I still take insurance. I take all my insurances, and that's what it is, and that's why I do. I sound like I'm put myself on the pedestal, but I try to do this to help people.
Right, exactly. And that's the key. I mean, I think if you don't want to help, if you want to help somebody, then you're gonna have to do and work it how you're doing it. You know what I mean? You don't
Especially if you want to make a living doing it.
Well,
you're gonna
yeah.
have to, at least try to do that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that would make sense to be able to get all the insurance and everything.
Oh yeah, I would try to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
Well, that's what you used to need to be. Like before COVID, you go back 4 or 5 years, that was our bread and butter. You were paneled by insurance companies. You were in network. So if you needed to see somebody, you would go to a doctor that was in your plan. And now you don't have to because you'll pay. So
Right.
Yeah, that's wild. That is wild. Well, I mean, like I said, now you know. It's one of those things. So I mean, for us, the more we speak to people, the more we learn. So then it's like one of those things you pass the word on.
Yeah.
Check on everybody. Like
Right.
I would never have thought. You know what? I'm going to look you up to see how if you're a good therapist, what your background is, and even just sit there for the 5 minutes before, like the initial consultation. I never would have. I just didn't think about that, but.
Yeah, of course, right.
I've never thought about going to a therapist.
It's kind of like an interview in a sense. You know?
Right, yeah. If I don't like
Checking
you,
their
I ain't
resume
talking,
and
yes,
seeing,
yeah. Right. Yeah.
How many likes do they have?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How many followers?
How many stars?
followers?
Yeah. How many followers?
I don't know if a lot of people do that because there's all these different health. One of them is like health grades and stuff like that, where they go and they rate you. But people typically don't do that. So it's not. It's word of mouth.
Yeah.
It's I get I get.
Or people look up through the insurance.
I get
website.
it
That's
through
how we
insurance.
do it.
Right.
I get through insurance, or I get it
That's how I
through
do most of anything.
referrals
Yeah.
from like I saw your friend or something like that. I mean, at one point I had like 6 people that all came from one person. So it was just
Nice.
Wow, that's good.
And that to
And
me,
I'm
that's,
sure it's interesting too because you might hear the same names. And you're like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say anything,
Yeah.
Right.
but you're
Yeah.
thinking to yourself like, I know who
right.
they're
that
talking about.
motherfucker. He really did do
but it's a
that.
great compliment. When like
Or
yeah,
you'll
definitely.
hear them talking about like
Yeah.
the same. Maybe they're having a problem with one
the same-
person.
yeah,
and
with
the
friend
same,
number
talking about
5.
The same person.
Right.
It's not,
That's great, man.
it's got to be interesting for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have to be honest. With the couple of times I've gone, it's usually because of somebody
Yeah.
I knew or was in that type of profession, or my wife knew somebody and said,
Right.
"Oh, well, why don't you reach out to so and so and
Yeah.
then do that?" And that's usually kind of how I did it for me. You know, I think one other time I did do it through my insurance, like you had mentioned before, Steve. But that was a while back. And
That you went to therapy.
through my insurance. In other words, I just call my insurance. You can call them up and you can say, "Hey, this is what's going on and everything." Okay, hold the line. We'll get you, we're going to send you a list to your email or whatever, how they worked it at the time. And then you figured out, who was in your area and you just call a couple of places and
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, do you find, Steve, that more people have stopped being therapists or psychiatrists because they were just overwhelmed? I guess we'll say since COVID.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a booming business right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
That friends that I have that are therapists, and I can't even refer people to them because they're busy. Or
Wow.
call me, can you take somebody? I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, speaking of booming businesses, right? So, the last couple of years, it's been insane. I was just talking to my friend on the phone the other day. He's like, I'm driving in the city. And he goes, there's got to be a dispensary, like 2 dispensaries on every block.
Right.
I said, that's crazy. He goes, so are you seeing, so I don't know if it's been positive or negative with people are people having problems because they're using cannabis? Are we been seeing people like, oh, I'm kind of calm now because of the stress reducing effects, or are people developing problems?
Or is it both?
Or both?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I worked in substance abuse for 25 years.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And so it was always like, abstinence.
Yeah.
Regardless of what
Regardless
it is.
of what it is. But everyone that was coming in typically had a substance abuse problem.
Yeah, so
that's what
it got to be
I mean,
abstinence.
I happen to think I don't use myself,
Mm-hmm.
not in 40 years.
Yeah.
But it's. I think there's a value to it within reason too,
Yeah.
and the whole thing with from what I know about like medical marijuana, it's at small amounts.
Right.
Right. It's like, like when, you walk into the supermarket and the guy in front of you just, he was just hot
reeks
boxing
of
his
it.
car. Like that's not medical use.
No.
Yeah.
But the person who takes a gummy because they have anxiety or back pain or something like that. Yeah. I think that can be great. It's
Right.
Listen, there's so many pharmaceuticals out there that people take that are acceptable, that are so dangerous.
Right.
Yeah,
But,
no, I know.
I think marijuana is probably the least of the issues with all the oxycodones and all that
Right.
Fentanyl and everything, putting everything
Right.
else. Yeah.
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 That's like, it's definitely on the bottom of the list for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As long as,
'cause-
again, within reason. So like
Right.
you don't want somebody taking a bunch of gummies and then driving their kids in the car.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
not safe.
Yeah.
So you don't want to have somebody having a couple glasses of wine and getting in the car.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
With any
exactly.
kind of substance, right? Of
Yeah.
course.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they say, well, now, so you coming as a substance abuse counselor, I almost like what Tom is saying. Do you think that people using the cannabis are now more anxious since COVID? Since that's what we were basing our stuff off. You know what I'm saying? Like before, like you smoke it's legal, kind of even you out. But do you find, because some people smoke and they get super, like, oh, what's that? Hold on. What's that?
Because they don't know
what I mean?
they're smoking.
Yeah, because they're not smoking either.
Right. They're not
whatever.
paying attention to what they're getting.
So now people
Like
that
any
smoke-
medication, right?
Right,
Think about
exactly.
that.
Yeah, like anything that would be, for mental health. Do you find more people are anxious as a whole since COVID, smoking or using anything like that?
I don't know how I could judge that. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
Okay.
how to
That's
answer
fair.
Yeah, that is
Yeah, that's
fair.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I couldn't see how you
Yeah.
would though. That would be hard to adjust because you're not really. They're not coming and going. Oh, I'm smoking weed.
I don't
Yeah.
test
Freaking
people.
fuck out.
Yeah. I mean, I have people who are very honest that they smoke,
Right.
and stuff like that, which is great that they're honest. But
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with it. Again, like as long as stuff's in moderation and doesn't cause problems in your life and
Right.
things like that. So, but I mean, but to your question before, is like I just think people know. Like you walk into your therapy, like you're meeting somebody for the first time. If you've spoken to them on the phone, you've already got a good idea whether you're going to connect with them. So, I mean, I know when I take phone calls, I'll talk to people for a few minutes and try and find out like why they're coming in, what can I do for them, stuff like that. And I know at least right away, like I can jive with them. So there can be a connection, and I think they feel the same way too. So it's just like it's all styles. It's all what you're comfortable with. So. I'm real relaxed. I mean, like this is how this is how I dress.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I got my office is a couch and 2 chairs. It's like you're hanging out in a living room. I always joke. I put my slippers on because I want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
So and
You're gonna laugh.
So.
When Lou said, he goes, my friend's coming as a therapist, I was like, before you came down, I was like, I was picturing like Richard Dreyfuss, or like what about Bob? Like maybe a tweed jacket.
Yeah, no,
I'm such a stereotype.
And then I
So
walked in, you're like, who's this guy? So,
See, I was kind of picturing the same thing,
Wow.
bro. So, like I was picturing that, button-down shirt, little tie. Hey, guys, nice to meet you. How are you?
With pocket protect.
and one of the things
now, Bob, we're taking baby steps. What about Bob?
I know the movie. I hate that movie.
Sorry.
No, because I want to smack Richard Dreyfuss.
Right.
Yeah, because he's such a jerk. Yeah.
Without, I'm kind of more like without the dress, because he dressed horrible also, but more like Robin Williams from Good Will Hunting.
Okay.
I call shit how it is and stuff like that.
Right.
But he was a horrible dresser too, and I don't have
Robin Williams.
yeah. But
he was.
I don't have a big beard either.
No, but he was good in that movie, though.
Great movie.
But like you on the phone too, and I always tell, like, if you're calling for your kid or something like that, I'll tell the parent, listen, if 15 minutes into the session, if your son or daughter doesn't feel comfortable, get up and walk out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm a big boy, I can handle it. Get up and walk out and go find somebody that works for you.
You know what's funny about that? Did you say that? You made me think about that, because at certain ages in your life, like a parent will do it. If a parent's confident in themselves and they want to take care of their kid, they're going to do it. But how many times there's certain things in your life you want to do it, but you don't follow through on it, and you kind of stick it out, and it's the wrong thing to do.
Right.
In any situation, that really.
Yeah, definitely.
But then when you get older, I think for some people, hopefully, if you're in a good place, you're able to judge that and figure that out. I would think.
Yeah.
I'm
But it's
guessing.
cool too, because you're giving the kids that moment, or that one thing that they can actually make a decision on.
Empowerment.
Right, exactly.
So they feel like, oh, I don't have to talk to you. I can, what? But then how many of those kids actually stay? Because you're giving them that.
And you got a connection with them.
Yeah, you see, there
All
you
of
go.
them? Yeah.
See, you fucking stud, my friend.
even if it's only for like 5 or 6 or 7, but it's enough to get them just a good taste.
Right.
So when something happens, I have one guy that I see now. He's 33. I saw him when he was 15.
Wow.
He called me up.
Really?
20 years later.
That's awesome.
That time frame doesn't work. He was like 18, yeah.
Okay.
And he called me up 20. He goes, hey, do you remember me? I saw you when I was a teenager. And I'm like, yeah, because I got like this uncanny memory of names and stuff. And he's like, can I come see you again? I'm like, of course. And so,
wow.
yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a huge compliment too,
Yeah.
man. But you think, because all that time went by, and it's like, oh, I remember talking to that one person.
It was just a good connection, and
Right.
it was not leaving the bad taste in his mouth.
That's great.
That's freaking
That
awesome.
is, man.
Yeah, see? So now
And it's
everybody
like,
listening.
it's got to be nice to do what you like to do, right? It's not hard to get up out of bed, I'm assuming, and to go to work and do what you do, right? I mean, because you love it and you like help, like you mentioned earlier, you like helping people. So that's got to be good for itself.
Especially since I went full time just by myself, because I don't have to deal with administration,
Right,
and
yeah.
And I am blessed to do what I love to do. And And I don't know what else to say about that. It's just I love what I do. I love the people I see. I have a good relationship with everybody. And it's not they don't last, and that's cool. Like something happens, and I'm just not the right person for them. But I have people that I've been seeing, excuse me, on and off for 15 years since I started. I have I have people that are coming for years, or like I said, you told your friend who told their friend who told their friend, and that's just a great compliment. So, and I just, like I said, I love what I do. I love helping people, and I just my thing. So,
well, like this, if it's too personal, of course, I'm not asking for detail, but how are you? Like, do you have to go and vent things out, and like,
that's
are
what
you
I was
see your own therapist?
That's Sopranos. That's where I thought you were talking about. Sees their therapist.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but
because they show that scene.
Are you required to do that?
No, I get locked up in an institution every night. So, I have I've been in therapy before, and I'm not, but I have friends that are in the field that I talk to when things are going on.
Yeah.
So I have a good outlook on things as far as just how I handle my life. I kind of, it's like I kind of got like a zen.
Right.
But,
yeah.
I mean, I have a good life. I have a good life. I have a good life. I have a good wife. I have great kids. I got a good family. I got good friends. I mean, my life is good, and I do what I love to do.
Right.
I was always thought of that too. I was like, I wonder if like you're a therapist that like you need to talk to someone to like help because other like maybe you like kind of empathize and you kind of deal with the person's problem with them, and maybe you need to offload to it.
Yeah.
But that's not really the case, I guess.
Do psychiatrists do?
They do.
They have to, right?
Yeah, they do. I know they do that. So,
okay.
But who knows what anybody does that nowadays with time? Anymore.
Right.
I mean,
That's true.
Right.
True.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea, right? I mean, hey, how can it hurt? You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're listening and you're just soaking up everybody else's. So for you to turn around and just like,
right, you need to let loose.
Right. Not so much that you're just telling, all of your clients' stuff out there, to whomever you speak to, but just to be able to get some of that off your shoulders. Because, I mean, working out, jogging on the street or whatever, it only goes but so far, man. You know? You're like, yo, this motherfucker.
You ever had that one patient where you're happy helping him and he's there and he's coming in, but, at the end of the day, you're like, wow, this guy is intense. Man.
Yeah, like that shit.
I mean, or I shouldn't say guy, but you know what I mean. Like, have you ever had something on you that was?
Yeah, I mean, over the course of
I'm sure, right?
30 plus years, you had that, and when you work for agencies, you had a bunch of people that you work with, and we always had staff meetings that you could talk about and supervising and stuff like that. I've done a real good job over the course of my career of not taking work home with me.
Nice.
I found that if I take you home with me, I can't be effective.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do you any good. I'm not a service to you or anybody else I see. If I go home and I just start worrying about all your stuff. So I kind of when I shut my door at my office, that's where it stops. So, and if somebody has to call me or contact me because we have to be available and stuff like that. But I'll deal with it then. But then when I hang up the phone,
it's over.
That's it. And it's funny. I come home from work, and I hate even calling it work. I come home from my office, and my wife and my kids will say, "How was work? Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good.
Good. Long.
Yeah.
Profitable. Whatever.
Right.
Listen, had a big day. Good. Because it is. That's what it is. And,
right.
And again, I know that if I bring it home, I'm no good to you the next day. So
right.
I've learned over again. I'm 59 years old, and I've been doing this basically since I'm 18 years old.
That's a good way to live for any job.
Yeah,
and I tell,
absolutely.
And I tell that with everybody
I
I
tell
see.
my wife that it's because we both work for the same company.
Yeah,
and sometimes she wants to talk about work, and I'm just like, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Because you know what? Because I use this phrase. I said when I get it. Well, I have a work van, so when I technically I'm still working, even though I'm not on the clock anymore. But when I'm out of work, I want to forget where I work.
On your way home,
I don't even want to know what I do or where
Still your
I
time.
work until it's time to
right.
to work
clock
again.
back in again. Yeah,
right. Yeah, because that's your time.
I want to forget where I work. That's like my phrase.
Right.
Like,
and that's a big issue for a lot of people is work stress, is just dealing with, obviously the stress of work or dealing with supervisors or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then what do? They come home and they talk about it to their spouse. And you got to find a way to leave it at work, because if you work, now you worked an 8 or 10 hour day, right? And you're miserable. Now you come home and now you talk to your husband or wife for another hour or two about work. Well, now you're working a 10 or 12 hour day.
Right.
And you're still
mentally,
pissed off.
Yeah.
Right.
So you brought your work home with you. And I always ask people, like, why do you work? Right.
Right.
And we work, I mean, the standard, we work for money, right?
Right.
I mean, that's really what it is, right? We work for money so we can take care of our families. And I don't let anything ruin your family. So don't let that job that you're doing to take care of your family ruin your family.
Right.
So,
and we all find different ways of, for me, I used to, I was always like, I like to take my shower like right before bed. So I'm nice and clean the bed. But now I realized one day I came home from work and I was like, I got to take my shower as soon as I get home, because I just got really dirty at work or whatever. And I said, you know what? I like that. I think I'm going to start taking my showers when I go home.
As soon as I get home.
Because that's like a chance to unwind. And,
and just wash work off of you.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and then it's helped.
That's
unworked.
wow.
I've unworked my brain, So
Yeah.
That's got to be, it's nice when you got a job and you can go to it and you like it, especially you're your own boss.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing,
definitely. Hell yeah.
That's got to be it. So, that's got to be great. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
Well, even like I said, but like for you though, Steve, that it's gratifying.
So, yeah.
So that's probably that to me is probably the key to the whole thing. You can like your job and you're happy that you help people, but if you're not, you're like, I helped a couple of people, it's whatever.
Right.
I'm just a genius. It is what it is.
Of course.
But when you turn around and you're like, that you just feel like, you're like, I help somebody, like
Right, yeah.
somebody, like I made them better, or I'm just helping them work through whatever. Yeah, that's got to be awesome.
And it's great because I see that in the people in now and what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
But with all my years with the county, because people just kind of left,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been so long. I wish I knew how people were.
Yeah.
Right, like if people are still clean and sober,
Right.
from 30 years ago, or stuff like that. Like that, I wish there was a scorecard that I can find out.
Yeah.
Wow.
I see some people on Facebook that I know are doing well, but doing it for 30 years, there's thousands of people that are
man.
part of your work life, and to know what 25 of them are doing is. I wish I knew more.
Right, definitely. Well, I'm sure, bro, because you seem like a really cool person, so I'm sure that, probably most of them are like, okay, and they'll hear your voice in the back of their head when they get ready to do some dumb shit, like, you know what? Yeah, Steve said, no, I'm not doing that one, you know what I mean?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I got one real quick question, because we had a podcast, our last podcast was on how people, just common decency.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that since COVID, that too as well, where it seems out of control, like with the driving and the people, nobody holding a door or saying thank you. It's just the kind of the normal stuff that we grew up, or kind of, it kind of went away a little bit. Like people like to put, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Thanks for holding the door for me. You know what I mean? Like, have you seen that a lot more going on that too as well?
I guess in just when going out and stuff, people aren't as polite. I'm always a door holder. Please, thank you,
right.
to the extreme. And people don't know manners anymore. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious because that was our last one, and,
Right, yeah.
and it's just more evident and obvious when you see it, and you're like, really, what the? I told you, cross. I was like, yeah, go ahead and cross. No, thank you. No, wave the hand, nothing.
You need to
Yeah,
wave.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what you said in the car and you're rocking. Steve, this fucking hooker, she didn't.
She didn't wave me. She didn't wave to me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's
That
awesome.
was awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's our time for today. Steve.
Wow,
Thank you so much
it
for being
fast.
with us.
It goes fast when we have, that good convo that, so
it's
I
nice.
appreciate you being here. Thank you for the,
Thank you for having
going back
me.
with us.
So,
Yeah.
very
appreciate
welcome.
you big time. Yeah. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you to all our listeners for listening. You guys, don't hurt anybody this week, please.
Yeah.
You
Please
got that
follow
looking
us on Instagram,
Yes.
Facebook.
Follow, like, all that other good
All
stuff.
that stuff. Yeah. So,
Yes.
Love, peace, and hair grease.
Live long and prosper.
and go vegan.
Holla.